Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about something that can help people gain weight, people who have a hard time eating enough food. Maybe they just get too full, maybe they're not able to maybe they're not able to keep good levels of satiation. I mean, in the reverse context, like they get too satiated. So, without further ado, let me do my disclaimer. I'm not a chemist and I am not a doctor. I do not encourage the use of any substances, legal or illegal, and this video is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. Also, if you enjoy this sort of content, please subscribe to this channel and consider giving this video a like. Now, MK-677 is a growth hormone secretagogue, human growth hormone. So when you take this orally, you can also take it in a transdermal application. I've seen that as well. It will increase the amount of human growth hormone in your body. It also, however, has the added benefit, for some people, but it's not a benefit for a lot of people, of increasing how hungry they get. So MK-677 can increase your hunger by a lot. I've used MK-677 in the past. I'm not entirely sure if it's expressly legal or not. I think it's a gray market. It may be legal as a supplement. I'm not entirely sure. Do your own research. Obviously, I'm not your doctor either. And I have gained a lot of weight with using MK-677 in the past because I used to be a quote-unquote hard gainer. Personally, I used to just force feed in high school and throughout, I think the age of 19 and 20. I started trying to use MK-677 because I heard it can increase how hungry you are by a crazy amount, and I really needed to get more food down for my strongman performance. I needed to gain weight so that I could lift more weight. So its human growth hormone properties are pretty crazy, and the fact that it can increase your human growth hormone. But with the property of giving you the need of eating more, like making you feel like you need to eat more, the amount of weight that you can gain on this is crazy, to the point where you can just get fat. Especially if you're a bodybuilder, this might not be for you. Maybe it will be in small doses. I don't know. Again, I don't even know that this is expressly legal, so I'm not a lawyer. And if I'm being frank, the legislation on things like MK-677, cardarine, things like that, that aren't SARMs, but people always lump in with SARMs. They're not SARMs. The legislation on them is constantly changing, so that's part of the reason I'm just keeping this ambiguous, because I don't want to say something and then somebody else come on here and be like, well, he's just completely wrong about the legislation on whether this is legal or not. With my anecdotal experience, I had tremendous effects with this. But one thing to keep in mind with MK-677 is it can decrease your insulin sensitivity. So that means that you can become on the road to be essentially diabetic. That's essentially what happens when you're going to become diabetic, is you have a decrease in insulin sensitivity. It happens the more fat you have on your body as well. A way to combat this that a lot of people do is they take something like a glucose disposal agent. Certain things like maybe a Slim pills from Enhanced Athlete, not sponsored, just talking about different companies. I know Gorilla Mind has one. I know Russo has multiple brands he's associated with that have glucose disposal agents. I think there's even a GDA from Swiss Chems Labs, or Swiss Chems. There's so many different glucose disposal agents that are quote-unquote like natural alternatives, things you can take orally to help mediate how high your glycogen levels are, so that you do not have too high of a glycogen level, too high of blood sugar, and can actually keep your insulin resistance down. So that you can be more insulin sensitive. Now, a lot of people just take those on their own for the insulin sensitivity benefits. I would need more data to tell you specifically if they're super effective or not. A lot of the things in them seem to be very effective, like cinnamon and berberine. I've seen some pretty good data on, I should say I've seen some pretty good results on for people. I shouldn't say data because, again, a lot of this is case-by-case basis and is anecdotal at best. But there is, you can always go on to Google and look at the empirical evidence for yourself to see what works and what doesn't. The other thing people do when they take human growth hormone, because human growth hormone in general will decrease your insulin sensitivity, is they will take insulin. Insulin is not actually illegal and does not require a prescription. If you go to like Walmart and you can get, there's human grade insulin. I'm not saying to do this. Please don't, actually. Insulin is extremely dangerous, and you can kill yourself the first time you take it. It's really easy to mess up. People oftentimes confuse the IUs because there's certain tick marks, and the fact of the matter is if you wanted like 1 IU, it's like this, and people will confuse it for the 1 marker, which is 10 IUs, which there's so many different intricate things with insulin that are very dangerous. So that's why I would recommend, if anybody was to do something like that, they would stick with the glucose disposal agents, or at the very least get the consent of their doctor on how to use insulin, because the last thing you want is to wind up where you are in the hospital because you took too much insulin and you're dying from low blood sugar. That's extremely scary and very dangerous. Obviously, I'm not recommending anybody do any of this. I just wanted to talk about how much I liked using MK-677 in the past. I saw amazing benefits. The other thing I noticed when I used MK-677 is I held a lot of water. This is something that I've consistently seen a lot amongst a lot of people, is they hold tremendous amounts of bloat, if you will, around their body. Their faces will bloat. All these wrinkles and stuff might go away a little bit because of how round my face gets. And I think that's definitely a factor to consider, especially if you're somebody who has high blood pressure. That is not something you necessarily want to be playing around with. And then another thing to consider is that I've heard it has a profound impact on prolactin, I believe. Yeah, prolactin, not progesterone, which can increase nipple sensitivity and worsen gynecomastia symptoms and such. And that is its own can of worms. Obviously, I'm not going to get into any sort of thing on that, but I've heard people can mediate that. With vitamin B6, I've tried mediating it with vitamin B6 in the past. I don't necessarily know that vitamin B6 orally really helps all that much, because the data that people were using with this, so there was a study that was done to show that vitamin B6 can decrease prolactin levels. I believe it was vitamin B6 and not 12, fairly certain. And but it was intravenous vitamin B6, so it was extremely bioavailable, and it was in a hospital setting. And when you're taking it orally, it's not nearly as bioavailable. You have to take an extreme amount, and so I don't necessarily know that would actually work at decreasing prolactin levels. And the other fact of the matter is that was acute decrease in prolactin levels. For all we know, that could have a long-term chronic effect of bleeding even more prolactin into the body. We would need to see more long-term data, because the research that I saw specifically was intravenous acute decrease of prolactin levels in people who were in the hospital and got injected with vitamin B6. So a lot of bodybuilders took that as, hey, I'm just going to take a crap load of vitamin B6 and it'll decrease my prolactin. It might, and it might not. It might make it worse, technically speaking, because there's no long-term data on whether it actually affects it chronically or if it's just, an acute sort of reaction. So, MK-677, I love for gaining weight, or I did. I'm not necessarily using it anymore. And I don't recommend it to people. I just wanted to talk about my experience and the research that I've heard in the past, and that I've also had it help me tremendously with gaining weight, especially when I was not hungry for gaining weight. Now I'm on more of a health conscious journey, and I'm not really focused on gaining weight, simply because I was looking at how big I was getting, and all of my blood metrics, or my parameters on my blood when I was getting my blood taken, as everyone should do. And they weren't where I wanted them to be, and I was not happy with what I was seeing, so I wanted to fix what I was seeing. And part of the thing is I needed to also decrease my blood pressure. Not necessarily that I have high blood pressure, I just don't want to have high blood pressure because technically I might have a genetic propensity to it. With my lineage, there is some sort of genetic propensity there, and MK-677, like I just said, could have an impact on that. So that is going to be it for MK-677 and gaining weight. I think it's tremendous in its effects of helping people gain mass, and it also has the tremendous side effects of insulin sensitivity and bloat, unfortunately. But that's the way it is. I hope everyone is doing well right now. Please subscribe to this channel if you aren't already. Please like this video if you liked it. And until next time, don't just have a good one, have a great one.